Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of Sharp Cuts. Garrett, I'm just going to try to keep this really, really short because I'm excited for today's guest, and I want to get to the banter as fast as we can. So, for our listeners out there, if you're looking for the podcast, that's an interview style. That's really to showcase what they're about. This one is going to get off the board. We're going to disagree, agree. We're going to share some laughs, but I'll toss it over to my guy, my partner in crime, the guy who had the idea for this show from Yes Guy Gaming, Garrett May. Take it away, my friend.
Well, thanks, Josh, and welcome everybody to Sharp Cuts, episode 6. We're super excited about this episode. Hopefully having some banter, having some laughs. We'll see what happens, though. Who knows with these two guests. So first up, I'll introduce a returning guest to the show. One I have to introduce first, otherwise I would never hear the end of it. Fan favorite of the show. I'm really disappointed to say that, but absolutely voted undisputed fan favorite of the show. Maybe not after this episode. It's John May. Welcome back to the show, Dad.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be on. Look forward to the conversation.
Well, great. And thank you for not phoning me this week, reminding me that you're the highest voted guest. I appreciate that. Moving on to our second guest of the show, family friend, well known in the volleyball community, has a special place in all of our hearts. Olympic bronze medalist. It's Mark Heese. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Well, that's a nice introduction, Garrett. I'm a little concerned. I feel like I'm going to get ambushed here. I've got that look in John May's face. I've been asked to come on last second here. No talking notes, no information, but I'm ready. I'm ready.
Well, I'll be honest, we didn't prepare the ambush beforehand. We didn't prepare any sort of ambush, so if it happens, it's happened naturally. But listen, we haven't done that before. I don't know. We'll see. So, Josh, we hastily wrote a few things down before this impromptu session. Maximum preparation here on Sharp Cuts not. So what are we starting with?
Well, I think everyone on this call, we know there's a big connection there, but I want to fill the listeners in first. So I would like to maybe trace back to when John and Mark started working together because John was one of the lucky coaches to work with John Child and Mark Heese. So was that on the Labatt Tour? Was that a little bit before? I know you guys went to the Olympics together. Can you just set the stage for our listeners, and then we can start to build on where the connection really led to? Because we're going to get to some stories, but I just want to give the origin story for some listeners who may not be familiar with what they're about to experience here.
Well, let me jump in because John might be talking about when he officially became our coach, which was after the Sydney Olympics. But I think John was working with me and everybody else on the tour back in the 80s when he was on display as a player. And everybody came to watch him because he was just so entertaining. And he was really
easy there. That's a little bit nice to him right off the bat. Like, it's Sharp Cuts after all. Like, is this a nice show? I guess.
He's just protecting himself. He's just protecting himself.
Because when he was working with everybody, he needed everybody to come and watch him play. And that's right. He started working everybody.
Yes, there it is.
And I was a young guy watching him play, and I was just entertained because he was talking about sharp cuts. He just sharp cut into everybody watching, his partner in particular, obviously the opponent. And that was John May. He developed a reputation.
Well, I can't say if to give you some context of how Mark and I first met. I probably ignored him for the first probably 10 years of knowing him, just because he was small, not that talented. And really couldn't even get on the main court.
Great start to a long-lasting relationship.
It turned into one of my best all-time friendships, no question about that. But it goes way back. To Mark's point, we met at the Balmy Beach Club. I would think, Mark, is where we probably met, on the sand in front of the club there. And the rest is history, that's for sure.
Yeah, John didn't notice really anybody but himself. So, the fact that he kind of knew me and doesn't actually remember when we first met, that's not surprising. But, fast forward, it wasn't 10 years. I was 19 when I started playing with the big boys or watching you guys down at Balmy Beach. But only about 3 years, maybe even 2.5 years into that, trust me, you knew me after the incident
Yeah, I only.
You know the incident. You know the incident because you.
Well, yeah, I know when you were playing there, and I pointed out the bread in your teeth was a significant incident for you. I know so much so you had to go and get braces. I get that because you're, and no disrespect for people with crooked teeth.
Well,
Like,
hold on. Maybe you got to give some
they're all over
context
the
for our
place.
listeners out there.
Well, to give you context,
there's several versions of the story, but I like John's. It's a good one.
Yeah, I don't really want to get into the bread in the teeth, but he did mention it before the show started here. He had to go brush his teeth, make sure he didn't have any food in them, because he's been known, or he was known for having a loaf of bread in his teeth.
Well, listen, Mark is bringing the level of preparation on this show to the next level and calling it into question by trying to actually look good and prepare in talking notes. Like, we're not ready for any of that stuff. So, I mean, we appreciate it, Mark.
No, I hear you.
Well, I'm half kidding, but the truth is, when I say the incident, that was, the loaf of bread in the teeth, that's not the incident, but that was an incident. And to give context, once again, John loved to be the center of attention. And one day at the beach, he came on to the court, down to the boardwalk in a suit. He was out there selling the sport to the Labatt executives. He came down in the suit, and everybody's playing. There's about 4 or 5 courts going. And he made an announcement, something about how he's selling the tour, he's the big shooter, whatever he was yapping about. And at the time, I was feeling pretty confident. I'm working my way up to the big courts, and I said something. I don't even remember what it was. But John saw the opportunity, and he made a big announcement. Hold it, everybody stop playing. Hold it a second. Heese, before you even open your mouth, get that loaf of bread out of your teeth. And that was a funny moment. And I was 19 or 20, and I, maybe didn't see it as funny as I do now. But that was but that's not.
He went right from the beach. He went right from the beach to the orthodontist. Like it was, he didn't even pass go, didn't even take a shower. He went right to the orthodontist. And look at his teeth now. They're perfect.
But what a brutal way to treat somebody. Oh my gosh, Dad.
Not unlike the beginning of the show. When we first turned on our cameras, Mark came to the show with I don't even look at. I'm so excited. I'm salivating. He came to the show. He had this scruff on. He looked like, well, I don't know what he looked like. It wasn't attractive.
Well, we'll never know.
I made one comment, and then he ran and shaved.
I thought we'd have a good before and after look.
Hey, Garrett, with your technology, can you pull up a still of him 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, I mean, I got to apologize, Mark. I absolutely can. I can absolutely do that. So viewers, I'll try to do that on YouTube.
Absolutely, because you know what? But all kidding aside, what I've learned over the years is that, and Mark truly is one of my best friends for sure. He's right up there with Walt Zinel. But I have to say this. You have to be careful what you say to people, especially when you're close to them.
So this is the lesson after Mark explained how you were not careful what you said to him back then.
I just had my 61st birthday. So I've evolved. I feel that I've taken a long, hard, look at myself. And you have to be careful what you say to people because you do influence them. Like he went to the orthodontist. I probably cost him and his family 15 grand. And he ran out to shave before the show. So from here on in, I'm only saying nice things. Only nice things. That's my new brand.
Well, that's terrible because you only got to be the big shooter by being in your face. And, as tough as that was to take the loaf of bread from the king of the beach, I'm some young guy, as tough as that was, it did set the stage for, like you said, our our relationship, which evolved into you coaching us at the Olympics. And I think that's what, your style and your truth that you brought and showed right in that loaf of bread comment. I probably didn't have any food in my teeth, but that's not the point. He likes to poke and prod and see what happens. And what happened? Well, I might have got some braces, but I also pushed and wanted to beat you on the beach. And you started coaching me from that comment on.
So how directly can we correlate the loaf in the bread in the teeth comment to the Olympic bronze medal?
Well, hold it. I talked about the incident. We haven't talked about the incident I'm talking about.
Oh.
Because that loaf of bread incident that's his incident. The other incident, which I know he knows, happened, and it started there because I wanted to beat John May so badly after that comment in particular, but also because he was the best. And fast forward a year, 2 years, maybe
10.
And now we're talking about the actual incident where him and Paul Hudson went to a tournament in Quebec, just over the border. I can't remember, Sabla, whatever it was. I got a chance to play with Paul Cox, another kind of rival and friend of John May's, kind of a higher kind of upper echelon player at the time. And fast forward to the semis, 10-all, John May's doing his thing on the court, working everybody in the crowd, talking a big game, yappity yap yap. I'm some young guy. Ooh, it's a close game. I'm kind of nervous. I go up and I just hammer one as hard as I can. And it's a phaser. Like, it's going fast. I didn't get much top spin, and John May's on D. And, if you can just imagine, like, the best uppercut, like, you could just give somebody just in the right there. That's what happened with the volleyball. And John got uppercut, and he got put on his back. He lay in a star on
Yard
the
sale.
ground, and the hush of the crowd. Oh, like everybody, whoa! And I was like, whoa! I just six-packed the king. That's the incident, because that was something, and it happened. But the way John May reacted to that, it was 10-all. We won 15-10. John May, the king of the beach, folded up so hard. I've never seen anything like it. He came up and he was swearing, "Shut up, face." Oh yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, he was mad, and I'm just like, I can't. And we went on to beat John May, and he drove in his car and went home right away. And that was, that was kind of the end of the king on the beach. There was kind of a new generation of players coming, and that was kind of a turning point. Am I wrong, John May?
Well, no, it was. I'm not sure that.
I see you rubbing your chin. Are you still sore from that shot? Is that? You still have
I do have a bit of a displaced jaw from that incident. I do. You know what? That is another classic moment that we've told that story, or I've listened to you brag about that story at least 1,000 times.
Well, he kind of got. Oh, is that why when we were on the front yard all those years ago, when you're playing pepper with Mitchell, Mark, your son, you just reefed and pounded one off his face as revenge all those years later?
Yes,
that's exactly what happened. How embarrassing that's what has to happen. You can't six-pack me, but you go after my 7-year-old son. That's pretty low.
And I'm still doing that. I did it to Maxwell. I got it on video. So, yeah, you know what? That is definitely an incident that I'll never forget, because not only did it practically knock my head completely off, but as Mark said, I had the crowd eating out of my hand. I was chatting it up.
At 10-all, though? Like, it's only 10-all.
No, but I don't think it was 10-all when the incident happened. I think it was a bit worse. well, was it 10-all? I thought we were dominating, and you came back and.
Oh, so the fold up was even worse than 10-all.
Yes, I thought the fold up was worse, and I'll admit that not only did it literally hit me in the mind, it figuratively exploded my mind as it relates to my focus, because not only did Mark take my head off, but his partner, who's a bit of a mouthpiece in his own right, and he's not here to defend himself, so I can't really take it too deep, but he embellished it. He was slapping his knee at the end of the court, laughing, and it was one of my all-time most embarrassing moments in the sport.
Well, not just your opponent, like Paul and I turned on you, obviously, but
the crowd.
The crowd went from laughing with you and being entertained to laughing at you, and just
no.
They turned on you.
No. The crowd was never
reaction
laughing. The
really
crowd was never laughing at me. Okay.
Well, I mean, when you get packed that hard, they probably were.
Okay, they were.
Everybody
was. All right.
Anyways,
can we move on? Do you have
well,
another
that
topic
was
on the show?
No, we're pulling a John May. We find the vulnerable point and we press on it.
Well, I'm taking it. I'm feeling it. I admit in that particular moment I was beat. But
John,
I do have to say he still wouldn't go to tournaments in his last years unless I was there holding his hand. And he'll admit that. Even John Child was like, "What are you talking about? You're not going to the tournament because John's not coming. I'm here. We can't rely on him. It's us."
This may be the sharpest cuts of sharp cuts we've ever had, you two. You guys, you're escalating the intensity as we go. Holy shit.
John, take it easy. Take it easy. Just calm down a little bit, okay? We still love you. Everything's fine. You don't have to start making up stories. We're talking about true stories. And the question at the beginning was, how did we get started? And I just said that was the beginning, because you probably didn't realize you were coaching me, but that was a big moment in my career. Beating St. John and winning a national six-packing John May would still rank right up there. And it wasn't long after that we started just becoming a little bit more communicative, and you were kind of guiding me.
So, lesson to any kids out there looking to get into sport, volleyball, beach, whatever, you're trying to get a good coach-player dynamic, wait for a coach to really chirp you really embarrassingly, then pack them in the face, and it'll build a great foundation for a long-lasting relationship.
That's, maybe. The truth is, John's truths, I kind of liked them. The loaf of bread in the teeth, all the banter. I kind of liked being pushed, and even now, I kind of like the in-your-face style. People might be surprised by that, but I responded very well to John's ways as a coach. And to your point, John, you're trying to remember the one moment where I decided I didn't want to go to Brazil to a tournament where you couldn't make it. And there's some truth to that. The truth is I didn't really want to go down. I didn't want to extend the season 2 months to go to the last tournament in Brazil, where we typically, at the end of the season didn't fare very well. And I use that as kind of an excuse. John can make it happen, forget it.
I appreciate being your excuse.
Well, you told me from an early age, if I ever wanted to use you as an excuse, I always could. So,
True.
So, Josh, where were we headed with that? Because I think we hit something for sure.
Yeah, there's a few points I want to pull on there, because we've had all three of you on the Passin Dimes podcast. And Mark, I'm interested just your last point there, that you like the in-your-face style, because when we had John on the show and we brought up your name, he mentioned you had your father's influence. You were already like a high-performance athlete, that you were really internally driven. But it sounds like there was some external stuff happening with coach that maybe pushed you as well. So let's dive into that practice environment when John was your coach. did that ever boil over? Did John May get on John Child? What were some of those situations like when he was actually your specific coach on the court?
Yeah, I think John is unique in the way he coaches, and he's not going to necessarily go there to the point where he's pushing you off a cliff, but he'll nudge you to the edge. And once he has developed the trust, and that he's actually got your back and truly loves you, I think, and that's where I got to. There's nothing that he could have done or said that would affect me negatively. I just knew he had my back, and everything he was saying was to get me better. And I totally accepted. I was on board. And if there's something that needs to be said and it's not very nice, and I don't want to sound like he was abusive. He's the opposite of abusive. He's just very truthful, and I love that. I improved quite a bit under him as a coach. That's not sharp cuts. That's a little bit of truth, but it was great.
Well, I guess that's that. No. What I've heard some stories, you guys. Like, what are some of the weirdest things? Because I know when you spend a lot of time with somebody, especially, well, I know because I wasn't there, but I saw you. You're over at our house at night, in the morning. Dad, you're going over. Like, Mark used to live across the street from us, and like, Dad, you'd be up 8 a.m, just walk in the door. Like, Mark, the guys are over at a weird time. It's like you spend a lot of time with somebody. Like, the ways you can push them, like, it eventually gets stale. Like, was there a point where you're starting to do really interesting things, weird things, kind of unique things to keep that kind of intensity and pressure back and forth going?
I think, I think it's a good observation, because to keep things fresh, you always have to look at new ways to find, ways to stimulate growth.
Right.
And keep it interesting. I've always loved Mark's spirit of competition. So regardless of what we were doing, we would, I guess, explore the principles of competition, right? Whatever.
Is that a euphemism? Like, I don't.
I'm not sure what you mean by a euphemism.
Well, like, explore the principles of competition. Like, you just compete at anything, basically, is what you're saying.
Well, understanding what competing means, or what that means to be competitive, or that desire that we have. There's a fine edge in that between being unhealthy and being healthy. You have to manage that balance between being obsessed with winning and being obsessed with winning.
I always struggle to find the balance between those two things.
It's a difficult edge.
Yeah, I hear you. Because some would say they're the exact same thing.
True, you would, and it's not, because winning, in one sense of the word, is not the score; it's the mentality. But it's the same word. It's sort of like a company called Live It Live.
Never heard of it.
Same word, two different uses. So my point here is that, you have to keep it fresh. And I think one thing that comes to mind with Mark is, it goes without question, he's an extremely hard, passionate worker, and always wanted to be pushed to his maximum, sort of, call it intensity in training, right? And to the point where that's where he got comfortable. And I often thought about, well, if that's where he's comfortable, that's where he wants to get to, well, maybe we've got to find a way to, get his uncomfortableness. Like, if he loves competing so much and he loves being pushed, well, what's a way to find, to challenge him in a different way? There's two things that come to mind. The on-court thing was actually forcing him to come to a practice fully prepared to do what he does and rise his level of training and intensity. I didn't change anything. And it actually came to me in the instant, to be honest, in the moment, because I could see his intensity almost to an anxiety level that he wanted to work so hard to get ready. And I recall deciding in the moment, well, no, here's what you're going to do today, Mark. You're going to sit in a chair just off to the side of the court with your eyes closed for the entire practice. And all I want you to do is I want you to listen in your mind and observe the practice from only the sound and count how many times John Child touches the ball in this practice. And I think that those were the...
You remember when I said that he wasn't abusive? That was maybe an example where he crossed the line. No, I remember that incident, John, because we had a few days off before this, and I was, John, when he talks about exploring the, competition, and he, I love being challenged, and he challenged me at every on and off the court, and we spent at least 1 hour a day talking about stuff. And it was a constant challenge for me. It wasn't easy to talk to John May for an hour every day, but the more I did it, the more I realized that I was growing and gaining confidence. And that time, I remember he hit me in the mind talking about challenge. I spoke to him for a good half an hour on the way to that practice. And we had a few days off, and I said, John, I'm fired up for this practice. Like bring it. I'm ready. Oh, and he said, oh, you're ready, are you? Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll see. And I got there, and he's like, okay, everybody warm up. Mark, no, just hold off. Just, sit over there for a second. I'll be over there in a second. Okay, everybody, let's do this. Let's do that. Pepper, warm up. Mark, hold off. Just give me a moment. And he came over, and he started every 10 or 15 minutes, he'd come over and add something. Okay, yeah, close your eyes. Listen for this and that. John touching sets. George Lubacek, he was there. Add that. How many times is he touching the ball? Keep track of it, Mark. This is great. Oh yeah, I'll be back. For 2 hours, I sat there twiddling my thumbs, thinking and hearing, and that was pretty frustrating for me. Was there a purpose to your methods there, John? That just came to you, and I'll hit Mark in the mind today. I know what I learned, but I'm letting you talk a little bit about it.
I think in hindsight, it was just for you to build an awareness about your need to find your comfortable place and what you're normally what normally gets you there. Well, try to get there without those normal circumstances, because the world's not going to constantly lay in front of you a nice path to walk upon. Even if you've found the right way to get to your zone, it's going to throw you chaos. And if you're not prepared to, be in the moment and be comfortable in what, the chaos is, it's going to be challenging for you when, the time comes and you have to perform and, something's a bit out of whack. So that, I guess that in hindsight,
John pulled up, he just flying by the seat of his pants. He decided to do that. There wasn't really any purpose. Let's face it.
Yeah, did it have anything to do with the fact?
Display of coaching. A terrible display of coaching.
Two questions I got on that. One, Mark, in your mind, does it ever crop in to go, this guy's been pretty good for me so far, but is it possible he's completely snapped? And two, Dad, does it have anything to do with the fact that you might have had 5 at practice and you're like, shoot, I've got 5 guys at practice. Maybe I'll just have Mark sit out and I'll make this thing up.
Yeah, you know what? Go ahead, Mark.
John was, and I liked it. I loved how John came completely unprepared to practice and just observed and said, this is what we're doing. And you know, the chaos that he talks about, yeah, some of those practices were pretty chaotic, and I liked that. I would do anything. You trying to throw me off, I'm ready. And you know, I think in the end that did actually prepare me for, you know, the real thing. And you know, what I got out of that day, John, again, I had to find ways to make this work. And I got out, you know what? Why was I getting so pumped up for practice? Ever see Allen Iverson's famous interview?
We talk about practice.
I get that fired up for a match? Why can't I just get so? Because you know, when you go to the World Tour, you're actually approaching it a little bit differently. You're, you know, wow, you're not as fired up. You got more nerves, and I thought to myself, maybe that's what he's trying to help me find. It wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
you make things work, Garrett. You make things work. We weren't paying him the big bucks.
Right.
I've always been the.
You get what you pay for, I guess.
Hey, I've always been the first to admit I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks. We're doing a redo poll. Favorite guest with that context.
I don't know what I'm doing. I do what I know.
But
flip it and just take that first part.
Yeah, like, but I don't.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, but then you do what you know, but you don't know what, you don't. I don't like.
Listen. If we're gonna continue on this line, I'm gonna just cheer you guys because you're sheep. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm getting back to the point then, host of the show. Was it or was it not because there were 5 dudes at practice?
I don't remember how many were there.
There was probably 9 people at practice. We had so many people.
Right.
He invited anybody, and we had so many people come through our practices. Again, John, I think, just likes to be the entertainer. Oh, you want to come? Yeah, come watch me coach. Sure, you're invited.
Yeah, okay.
Well, as a matter of fact,
the more the merrier. Oh, we're training for the Olympics for John and Mark. Yeah, that's a secondary thing.
I think
coach.
I think at the World Championships in Brazil, or maybe it wasn't the World Championships, maybe it wasn't Brazil, but I do remember and it never felt like I forced you because there wasn't a debate, but you and John, we were having a session, and then I said, well, you know who's going to join this session is those 2 women that used to travel on the tour, and she became a lawyer, very successful. She was very passionate.
Rebecca Moskowitz.
Yes, Rebecca and her partner, Mark. Do you remember that?
Josh with the poll. Are you kidding me, Josh? That was no information.
Lawyer for sure popped it, for sure.
Yeah, they wanted to train with somebody, so I had them, and you guys were doing a light session. I had them in the session. Do you remember that, Mark?
No.
Okay, well maybe it didn't happen.
In Brazil, training for the World Championships.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the World Championships because Rebecca wouldn't have been there. I forget where it was, and you know what? Because I'm now 61, maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was another team that I was coaching.
Okay,
that does sound like you.
Yeah, like
I never would want to exclude anyone who wanted to be in a training session if they have the forthright to step up and say, hey, can I come and train with you and these guys? I do that. And I can remember a lot of guys somewhat regretted it. I can remember guys after their first training session with you guys. I remember Aaron Cadu crying, like not that crying and emotions are, bad or whatever, but I can remember him crying like a baby because he realized.
Hold on. No, stop. You're calling out Aaron for crying like a baby after one of your practices.
Yeah, but Aaron would appreciate it too, because if he was on the show, he would recognize, and it was because his emotions were just spilling out because it was such a no, it was such a no, but no, it's not actually funny. It's open. His
But it
emotions.
sounds so ludicrous. Like your practices are so emotional and cut right to the core that Aaron's just breaking down, bawling on the side of the court post practice.
I know that.
Awe of your coaching genius, no doubt.
No, but he recognized, Mark, his level, his physicality. He just wasn't at that place, and he was just.
Yeah, Garrett and Josh, like several times, because so many different, I think we counted one time, there was 37 different partners that came through our sessions over the course of a winter, off season. And so many times I'd look at John as like, are we even, like, has he spoken to us yet? He's coaching everybody else that comes through. Are we involved at all in this practice plan? No, I do remember, though, Paul Cox, remember you mentioned him earlier. I remember Paul and maybe one other, maybe it was Rich Van Heusen that first came to our practice, excited to get involved. I think they walked out after two separate incidents. They walked out after the warm-up because it was they were too tired. Yeah. Like our warm-up, I mean, we worked hard. And our warm-up, like Paul was looking at me like, are we, like, it's 10 minutes in and I can't even breathe. I'm ready to yak. And he just got up and left.
Yeah. And you know what? And it wasn't, here's the thing, as I reflect on that, it wasn't it wasn't like you were running lines or you were having to do, grueling punishment. It was just the intensity of having to, manage like work. It wasn't like your normal, hey, this is a casual beach volleyball thing. You were running rallies and, in concession, and you were always under what I would like to call it some type of pressure, whether it's mental or physical, or, you came there and you were working for 2 hours. And I think if I can fast forward to my last, or my, with Christina and Jamie.
I was about to do that.
Okay, well, the intensity of their training sessions, they just became used to it, and then your physicality and your touches. Like I would bet you probably get, and it would be a bad guess, but you get 100 more touches in one of my sessions than you would when you're just down there, casually doing what you do, or under somebody else's tutelage. Now, depending on who it is, but
for sure.
The truth is, oh, sorry, Garrett, you wanted to say something there. Go ahead.
Well, that's very nice of you. We don't often get that on Sharp Cuts, so I appreciate the deference there, Mark.
You were making a lot of gestures.
Well, I gotta jump in because I love the talk about the intensity of practice. I think it's hilarious that those guys left after 10 minutes. But that's in stark contrast to a story that friend of the show and previous guest Oscar Kahu told about a training session with Olympians, Christina Valius and Jamie Broder, how he shows up completely hungover, unprepared for practice, and says he feels great leaving that.
Well, maybe things changed. It was a good 5, 6, 10 years in between John coaching John and I and Christina and Jamie, but I'm not sure why, because
I think I'll tell you why. Because one thing I do have is a bit of a sensitivity, as you said, Mark. I'm not going to take you over the edge, and I knew I could smell Oscar coming into the venue. So I wasn't about to destroy the guy because it wouldn't serve the larger objective. So
if you bury that guy early, then you only have 3 people for practice.
Yeah, then you got 3 people, exactly. So
and we used to have 7 or 8 people and coaches observing. And I remember that, John, because I'm talking about how you like bringing people in, watch me coach. The truth is, I loved seeing who was there at practice, and kind of showing off, like, because we were working hard. We were at a high level in my recollection. Like, and people came in, they were wowed about what we were doing and how we were doing it. And, and I remember one in particular, John Barrett, who got involved, was interested in the beach. And, you're good friends with him, John. And he started, big fella. And he came in and was watching. And I just remember at the end of our practices, we used to finish with some intense, repetition, fatiguing drills. And I just remember John Barrett just observing the whole time. And he was right beside our court. And I remember just, at my best. And I just, John Barrett didn't say anything, but I just remembered feeling like I'm showing off in front of John Barrett. He's sitting there thinking, wow. And he might have a different story, but I do remember I enjoyed bringing people in because we were kind of showing off. Right? And John, did you feel that way too? Like we were impressing everybody when we were building our thing.
Yeah, I think it was, people weren't used to what a practice would look like on the beach, back then. And to be honest with you, I wasn't right sure. Like, it wasn't like there was a playbook that we read to here's how it's going to get done. As you said, I just made everything up, more or less as I went. But I was able to, I think, with you guys and your talent, create a bit of a show in the practice.
So was part of it too, like, hey, everybody coming in to watch, I didn't plan this, and it's still better than what you're doing?
Well, I don't think it was a judgment on how other people were running sessions, because
maybe that's just me projecting.
Yeah, no. Okay, well, that it wasn't about that. I remember Wally Daiba, coming and wanting to learn, but it fascinated me, somebody who was literally a professor of the sport, a very, what would be considered to be a technical guy. He was very scientific to his approach. Once you have that foundational understanding of the game, you may just hang on to that, and that's what you focus on. If you're focused on that, sometimes it takes away from your broader awareness of what's going on within the individuals that you're training, whether they're, what intensity they're physically at, mentally where they're lying. I used to love to, and Mark, you'll know this, I used to love to try to take people to what I called the slippery slope. And the slippery slope is when it's just that, you're on a slippery slope. And if you can play and perform on a slippery slope and maintain your level, then that's great training. Not that you do it all the time, because it's funny. I guess when I start talking about every session wanting to get to the slippery slope and put people in that frame of mind, I get defensive, because there needs to be a non-consequence based style of training as well. Like, you can't get your reps down unless you're performing under non-consequence based activities.
Why are you changing your voice there? Like, what?
Because I'm speaking in a non-consequence based style.
I thought you were starting to well up a little bit.
Maybe it sounded a bit more intense. I don't know. I was a bit scared. Like, are you okay?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you guys go. You're way too sensitive.
Well, immediately you bring up the non-consequential. It's like, no, there's consequences right now.
Exactly. There you go. Because there is always consequences to every pass you make. So I found it interesting. I don't know what got me on the slippery slope, but
well, are you on the slippery slope right now?
I would like to see John. I would like John Child to come on this show and talk about the slippery slope with John May, because it was easy to get me on the slope and probably more challenging to get John on the slope. He was a little more skeptical about, just handing over the reins to a coach. Hey, you coach us and tell us what to do. He was a little more, individual, well, not as easy to sell.
Josh Nickel and I had a session on his Passin Dimes show where
Subscribe.
I alluded to the relationship with John Child, and John Child, obviously an extremely unique athlete in more ways than one. So I would love sometime to have him on this show or on any show, or even maybe really address the conversations that we had and address the relationships and a number of things. We would definitely have some laughs because I love John. His sense of humor is
Sorry,
awesome.
you just mentioned that you'd love to have him on this show. I just want to. Are you booking guests? Are we? What is this?
Well, I'm actually thinking he might be a good replacement for you.
Well, I mean, that's fair because it's been a few episodes we've had people question us and say, hey, we could do this better than you guys. And I just want to be clear. If that's what you're saying, Hammond, come right out and say it.
Well, no, I just meant the collective we. I'm not booking guests, but I did have to get Heese on the show.
Well, listen, a big shooter like Heese, we need to pull out all the big guns. Are you kidding me? This is an honor.
Yeah, it is great to talk to him. So let's hear more from him. What's our next topic?
Well, again, with the connection of the people we have on the call, I want to understand the balance of something you value in as an athlete and when you try to pass that on as a coach and it doesn't take. So when we had Garrett May on the Passin Dimes show, he mentioned Mark was really focused and liked to take mindful morning notes. But when Garrett had the opportunity to do that, he just felt it wasn't going to work for him. So I want to understand the balance where, Mark, that was something so based in your routine and you really valued. And now you have this athlete that you care about who's not going to pick up these same habits that you believe in. Like, how do you go in a new direction as a coach, or do you ever dig in and say, no, this is something that I know works and you're going to do it whether you want to or not? Like, where is the balance of passing on these values and also letting them choose their own way?
Well, it is about them choosing your own way. So, as a coach, and even now when I coach younger teams, there's some principles that I certainly would want everybody on the team, whether it's a beach or indoor team, to understand and to do their best to adopt, because principles are the upper umbrella over everything. But the methods, and especially on the beach, I'll introduce something, but that's and see what happens. And these mindful morning notes, this mindfulness, questions, reminders, just to get you in the right mindset, it was an important piece for me, connecting, beach volleyball and my life. And it, as a mature athlete, Garrett, when I introduced that to him, he was still a teenager. And even when I talk about it now to young people, that's not important. I mean, it's harder to understand, or not understand, but harder to adopt something. It's probably, they look at me, that's some old school technique, and that's okay. There's lots of people that have their own ways, and it is about finding your own way. Garrett, did he want to do that? I don't know. I guess not. But he certainly did a bunch of things that we introduced, and that just wasn't one of them. I think it was. I don't. Garrett can speak to that, but it's about finding your own way. And he's.
At what point do we cut him off?
Look at him now. He's
right about there.
Sharp cuts.
I think it's an interesting question that Josh asked, to be honest, and I think Mark was touching on it. But I think what I'm a little bit more interested in is, because I think we're a pretty interesting trio here, where, like, Dad, you coached Mark for so long. You also coached me as I'm your son. Like, we lived in the same house for, 23, 24 years. But then there was a lengthy period where, Mark, you're also coaching me. And there's stuff that was definitely passed along. Like, I think if people talk to the three of us, I think a lot of people would say, oh, that seems really familiar to the others, right? I think it's similar with John a little bit as well, and Reed, and just everybody who was part of kind of our community there. But I'm kind of interested in what doesn't make it on. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's something I can answer for sure, but, like, because Dad, you're passing stuff on to Mark, trying to get him to do stuff. trying to get me to do stuff, Mark then with me, and it's like there's stuff that's not happening along the way. I'm kind of curious what we think that is, like what's not happening. You know what I mean?
Well, I one thought that comes to mind in that, and Mark alluded to it, is that, there's a customization within every athlete, and their story, their plan, it's theirs. And so, and that's all we're really doing is grabbing what sticks for us from each period. I'm not a journaler, or I don't journal. And I don't do it because I don't get it. I don't get the feeling to write down what I'm feeling. I know what I'm feeling. Why would I write it down? When I write it down, yes, there's a whole logic behind it, but it's like I just feel it. So I know what it is, and I can tap back into those feelings. I don't need to say, oh, hey, I was feeling this if I look back. It's nice to look back, but it just didn't grab with me. So I didn't introduce that to Mark, but I hear about journaling all the time now, that it's the way to go, and you got to do that. I don't see it. So for me, that doesn't stick. Interesting, I was listening to a motivational speaker. I was telling Josh, Steve Harvey, who's the Family Feud host. I love the guy. He's hilarious. But he's also a passionate motivational speaker. And in the speech today, he's saying, education is useless. It doesn't matter.
I'm not sure if that's the message we want to be passing on Sharp Cuts. No, we can maybe, is that our message here? Or?
No, but that's how powerful the guy felt about education. He said, it doesn't matter if you went to Harvard, or it doesn't matter if you went to college, and he had a message behind it, right? So I think when you just take things literally for what the tangible piece is, or you don't even consider the tangible piece, and you just, look at the intention or the culture around something, you never get the whole, there are principles to success, and they vary from individual as much as fingerprints. So,
okay.
That's my thought.
Journaling, I'm not sure how that relates, because the mindful morning it's not journaling, but either way, Garrett, you're kind of stubborn, and that's okay. And that's, if something didn't stick, it didn't stick. I mean, we had 8 months that I kind of coached you in leading up to a world championship that you eventually won. So, whether you adopted mindful morning notes or not, that's, I guess you were right not to, or not.
So notes aren't journaling.
It's not journaling.
Notes,
what's a journal?
Notes aren't journaling.
No,
that's what journaling is. Writing down notes.
I'm not sure we want that close up there, Dad.
There's no writing. There's no journaling in
notes.
Yeah, you don't even know what we're talking about, I guess. But either way,
don't make notes?
No.
Oh.
No notes.
Well, then why is it called mindful morning notes?
You can call it whatever you want. I actually called it everyday.
Why don't you just call it mindful morning?
I call it everyday greatness. That's what I called it.
Oh, another thing you stole from me.
It's awareness training.
Well, I'm curious because, Dad, you say you don't journal. You're not taking notes, whatever. Semantics, boys. But the one thing you do is lecture. And we got them every Sunday morning. So you're talking about morning. There was a Sunday morning lecture. I'm curious, Mark, because I catch myself doing it to other people sometimes. And I got to remind myself, I'm like, oh, damn, I'm kind of doing what was done to me. Or do you find yourself, you bring your kids in the nook and Sunday morning, just in your NHL boxers, and give them a full-on lecture for 2 hours? Or is that something that didn't progress?
No, I learned my lesson because I heard so many of those lectures from John. And you remember, we weren't paying him much, so we had to put up with certain habits. And the long lectures, actually, it was kind of a good rest day. I pretended like I was really listening, but I just had a nice break from it all.
Right.
And John got his thing out, and everybody was happier at the end of them. No, I don't do that to my kids.
I never got my thing out. Okay, let's just be clear.
You got.
Well, you're
That
right.
was
boxers,
not
and you
part
got
of
your
it.
thing out.
I mean, you wore those boxers like they were shorts.
I had my NHL boxers, okay, but I never had my stick.
Okay. Well, whoa. Okay. What the heck? I thought we were gonna go the full 2 hours or the full hour without an issue, and here you go messing things up, Dad.
Christina called me.
Okay. My friends have a legendary recollection of you and those NHL boxers giving lectures because it was Sunday. We're trying to hang out with the boys. Like, we're trying to do some stuff, go play yard hockey, whatever. Oh my gosh, here we go. Anyways, so they come over and we're in the middle of the Sunday lecture and they're getting caught right in the crossfire. And you're like, oh, no, come in, come on, no, enjoy it, sit down. And then it's another hour. We're with these guys now. We got to reiterate the whole message.
So it was a mindful morning lectures on Sundays. Is that what it was?
I used to call it pontificating. You know, sometimes I'd walk into Beach Blast, Mark, there during the warm-ups or whatever, and I guess I'd lecture and I just speak what was on my mind. It was a bit lecture-y, I guess. But you know, I can't.
Everybody has their
apologize.
methods. Some are journalers, some are lecturers, some are pontificators, and some don't really care about that stuff and go and win a world championship anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I hear everybody's doing that these days. So, I mean,
there you go.
Well, both of you guys are living on your past successes. You with your 3-time Olympics, and it was. You know, I can remember we had a big party. Hey, let's celebrate Heese and Child's bronze medal that happened like 200 years ago. Which, you know, let's talk about. Let's talk about who's really. No, let's talk about who's taken over.
When was that party? Like a week after the Olympics, or was that?
Let's talk about who's taken over as the real ambassadors of what we're doing. And that's our
I agree. It's Sharp Cuts, Garrett May and Josh Nickel taking over as the ambassadors. This show, that's where it's starting, right here, my boys.
No, you're right, John. Let's get to the next generation. Forget this old school stuff. Like, who's going to bring home, you know, the next big news for beach volleyball in Canada? I think we all know who we're talking about.
Well, I'm predicting it right here, and I don't mean holding it back. Our next Olympic gold medalists, which are going to be happening this end of July, is Sarah Pavin and Melissa Humana-Paredes. There's no question they're going to win. I'll predict, and I'm not afraid to say it because they are the best. They're doing all the right things, and they're going to win.
Well, that brings our gold medal predictions up to 2 on the show now. As we asked Sam Schachter the question, hey, what are the expectations going into the Olympics, man? Like, you probably going to qualify? Like, what can we expect? And he said, well, we're going to win. We're going to go there to win. So, I mean, wouldn't that be great to see Canada double podium?
Or triple podium.
Triple podium. And our indoor teams maybe making a splash, Josh.
I think in a big way. The men are going to have a big year. I think Sitting has a shot too. There's going to be so many volleyball medals.
Could be the biggest year if it happens. Are we sure that the Olympics are going to happen?
Right. Well, it's funny. We asked Sam about that because they're kind of qualified, not fully, but sort of. And he was like, they don't even know. So we don't even know. We have no news to report here on Sharp Cuts, unfortunately.
Well, you know what? Regardless of whether the Olympics happen or they don't happen, or whether, you know, we get medals or not, the great thing about the timing of where we're at and coming out of this pandemic is it's the perfect time for volleyball to unite. And we are going to come together as a community coming out of this COVID, and we're going to stand for something great. That's for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Are you
adding
trying to
some
tease
Olympic
something?
Podiums to that would be, a good part of the formula.
Yeah.
Well, Josh.
I have to leave. I have to leave the show.
Yeah. Well, we were just about to shut it down. So this is usually how we end, guys. We just kind of get to a point where one of us has to leave because we've had enough.
Okay. Well, you know what, Mark? Great to see you. And,
John, before you go, are you wearing your NHL boxers right now?
Great question.
It is the weekend morning, and you are pontificating and lecturing a little bit. Are you wearing your boxers right now?
I'm always wearing those boxers.
NHL boxers.
All right. Well, thanks you guys for joining. Josh, why don't you close us out and we'll move on.
Well, thanks everybody for listening or watching on YouTube, and thanks to our guests here. I feel like John May's a regular, but Mark Heese, thanks for being a guest. We'll have to get you back on soon. So this episode will come out Monday on YouTube, Yes Guy Gaming, and you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find it anywhere. And new Passin Dimes episodes every Friday. Thanks for listening, everybody. This was a good one. Thanks, Gary.
Good fun.